Right, so there have been acts of depravity and evil, frankly, that we've witnessed for nearly 7 months now as Israel have made their way through Gaza and as they now verge on a big push into Rafah to finish the job. The evidence has been uncovered of perhaps one of not just the worst spectacles of atrocity we've yet seen Israeli forces carry out, but possibly one of the most egregious and despicable acts perpetrated to human beings by other human beings in living memory, as the bodies of people have been uncovered in Khan Yunis in the grounds of what was left of the 2 hospitals of Nasser, where 700 bodies have reportedly been uncovered, and the Al-Shifa hospital, what was once the largest hospital in Gaza, where some 1,500 bodies have been found. If you don't know about this, that is because right up there with the evidence of mass murder, it seems, that has been found at the side of these 2 hospitals, is the fact that our media have barely touched this story. And where they have, they seem only interested in telling Israel's version of events, even now, even on something like this. This story is going around the world across social media, and it is pretty much the only place you'd know about it from. And that is staggering, not just because of the scale of evil, and there's no other word but evil for this, but equally in that there appears to be a concerted move by the media as a whole to play it down. And that scares me senseless, because it has you asking the question, just how far will our politicians and media class, who are so often intertwined with each other, go for the sake of the people perpetrating a crime such as that we are bearing witness to, if you happen at least to be looking in the right place. Right, so this is a story of such unfathomable evil, you almost look at it and wonder where to begin with it, because we're trying to get your heads around such large-scale example of utter deviance, and what amounts to civilian mass murder isn't something we're designed for. The kind of acts we read in history books that should be consigned to them, that none of us imagined would be something we'd have to deal with in our own lifetimes to bear witness to. Never again moments as he should be, shocking us, because they are. Perhaps it's like I've said in other videos, that our media have censored us for so many years, censor us so much still. We become insulated in the West from such things. But social media has removed those blinkers and revealed to us what the media would prefer us seemingly not to know. The evil being committed by people allied to our own governments, who continue to aid and arm them, even as the hospital grounds of 2 hospitals reveal getting on for 2,000 bodies of murdered people, because mass graves don't just materialise out of nowhere. And claiming these people are all Hamas, as we know some of the worst spokespeople will, is just sick. Hospital grounds, as these were, investigation clearly found who was dead and buried, and of course it was going to be full of patients and hospital staff, wasn't it? Akram Al-Satarri, a freelance journalist based in Gaza, has reported that the evidence shows the bodies being found consist of patients and medical staff, and that the manner in which they had been found was consistent with many of them having been buried alive. Many of those found still had cannulas in, still had catheters in. Others were found with their hands bound, including children. Others were found with having been shot in the back of the head at point-blank range in an execution style. Other bodies were heavily mutilated with signs of surgery showing where organs have been removed. Bodies have been found with their eyes, their livers, their kidneys gone. But what struck me most of all in listening to the report he gave, he was talking to the Democracy Now! YouTube channel, huge US-based independent media outlet, was that this wasn't even the first time he'd observed scenes like this in Gaza. That in his 16 years of him reporting as a journalist, he'd uncovered similar incidents in 2008 and in 2014, and across the last several years leading up to where we are now, where for the first time we're hearing about so much of this, and we're hearing about the scale of it and the grim detail of it, of just what Israel oversees, occupies and oppresses the Palestinian people. It is horrifying, not just in the scale and the fact it's happened before and we've heard nothing about it, but when you hear that all of this has been done before you realise just how badly Western countries, for the sake of their pro-Israel alliances, have failed to uphold international law, therefore, and how the media has kept us virtually completely in the dark over it. We talk in terms of Israel having become a pariah state in 6 months, having been widely sympathised with globally before that, and you're now thinking to yourself now, well, pariah just isn't a big enough word for this. And why has it taken so long for the realities of what Israel does and how they treat the Palestinians to come to light like this, and every politician selling their soul to support this, who shouldn't be within a million miles of power because of it. Now, because of social media, because of independent media outlets doing what the billionaire-owned press, the political class press, I guess would be a better way of putting this, repeatedly failed to, and the insane levels of bravery you have to be a journalist in Gaza, where having the word press splashed across your chest and your back doesn't mean jack as far as being protected from being shot at by the IDF goes. But now the UN and others are saying there needs to be an investigation because of what has been found here. It's not good enough. This should have come years ago. Surely you knew about this before. Is it just because it's come out of social media now you're saying, whoops, we better do something? Because that's not good enough. Sorry, screw that. Sanctions on Israel pending the result of any such investigation should be implemented immediately. End the aid to them, end the arms supplies. Look at what they are doing with it when you give it to them. Bodies being found in scrubs, having had their organs illegally harvested. Go on, say it's Hamas again. Go on, someone say it. I dare you. Nobody in their right mind can possibly listen to these accounts, see the chillingly graphic images on social media, and keep exonerating Israel, as if anyone else in Gaza was remotely able to commit such a scale of genocide in hospitals, of staff and patients. I am writing this, and I am genuinely struggling to not say something that causes this to not be published, because it is so hard to convey how this makes me feel, and to give this story the weight it ought to have. We have seen this rage on for months now. We've seen Israel destroy churches and mosques, destroy schools, kill so many people in Gaza, innocent people, tens of thousands of people. And then you get cases like these two hospitals in Khan Yunis and realise these people are not just being killed indiscriminately, but that it is actually even worse than that. It is as bad as it can be. I can't fathom the terror these people must have felt, being buried alive, being made to get down on your knees knowing you're going to be executed for no more than being Palestinian. But then they can't even leave you be dead without desecrating you, stealing your organs. I mean, my God. We are, if not before now, which frankly we were, but definitely now at a point where arms sales and other military aid to the Israeli regime has got to end. It must stop now. There must be no forgiveness of any politician not supporting such a move. And how in light of this any of them cannot be seen as complicit in genocide, I do not know. I'll single out the US though, because Genocide Joe is saying there will be no US participation in the investigations here. There is no bigger enemy of the Gazan people aside from Israel than the US right now, bar none. And frankly, I challenge, no, I dare right now, any politician to try and justify what they're witnessing here, what has been uncovered here. Justify carrying on as you are. Because right now, any of that, any talk of denying that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, denying what is in front of all of our faces, and more of these bodies get uncovered, it's just pure hatred of Palestinian people. When we go out and protest against this every single weekend, we're supposed to believe the likes of Gideon Falter, who the media couldn't platform enough a week ago, that these are hate marches, and that he just wanted to cross the road, not disrupt. Or when Suella Braverman calls them hate marches as well, and demands the head of the Met Police resigns for not taking stronger action, when protest is still our right, and always will be, even if you try and take it from us. And again, the media all talk over that story too. Student protests in America spreading around the world, now to other countries, and they have the police attacking them as their views become secondary to national interests in Israel. That gets more coverage than the reason they're protesting. This is twisted. Where were the media to tell this one, though? Of all the places to fail to deliver the news that people should need, to inform, as they're supposed to do, where were they here? Sky did a piece on Tuesday talking of the UN human rights chief's horror at what had been found at Nasser. Yet they bylined this with, Israel says it examined bodies previously buried by Palestinians near Nasser Hospital while checking to see if any of its hostages were among the dead. It says claims it buried the bodies initially are baseless and unfounded. Well, nice to have Israel's response there. Of course we got their response. God forbid they don't get their denial in. The Guardian reflected those optics in their coverage of the same story on the same day. But they were the exceptions because most media just ignored it. And now, having seen what has happened here, our politicians and our media sit and wait, seemingly for it all to happen all over again in Rafah now. This isn't good enough, and I wish I had an answer for what I think must be done. What can be done? Well, we've local elections happening later this week. Perhaps send a message to the Tories and to Starmer's Labour both of them utterly and unapologetically pro-Israel, by casting a vote elsewhere. Do not vote for them. When the media come crawling around for opinion, tell them we're not voting for them because they're siding with Israel. Tell them it's a solidarity move with Palestine and Gaza. Tell them what you've seen on social media that they refuse to report. But at the end of the day, with politicians like this, with the Israel lobby so influential amongst them, with all that spells for how this country might be run as far as we're concerned, as far as Palestine goes, there'll be no change in direction at all. Without a change in our politicians and the media in what it decides is newsworthy and what is not, we need a drastic change. Too often it is left to smaller, yet far more credible, independent media outlets to deliver actual journalism being done. And thanks to social media, that does somewhat level the playing field with these bigger beasts amongst the mainstream media. But they rely on all of us to highlight their stories and point to their work and read it and then share it and support them if we can to do so. One of which is Declassified UK. They made an appalling discovery that again the mainstream have totally ignored. A grubby deal between the UK and Israel due to last until 2030. Find out all about that story in this video recommendation here. I'll hopefully catch you on the next video. Cheers, folks.